Sometimes a retcon is small, a tweak to a character's dialogue or a little adjustment to the timeline, but other times Blizzard throws out the entire old story and replaces it with something so different it's almost unrecognisable. The Draenei are the perfect example. In Warcraft 3, their connection to the Legion was clear. The Eredar were one of the first races to join Sargeras in his Burning Crusade, trading their souls for power. And then the Burning Crusade happened. Suddenly the Draenei were not corrupted Eredar, but noble refugees who fled their doomed world. This single lore change didn't just alter one race's story, it rewrote major events across the entire Warcraft timeline. My name's Will, and today we're going deep into how and why Blizzard pulled off one of the biggest retcons in MMO history. So let's wind back to Warcraft 3. In its manuals, the lore was simple. The Eredar were a race of highly intelligent sorcerers. When Sargeras, the champion of the Titans, encountered them, he offered them unimaginable power in exchange for their loyalty. Archimonde and Kil'jaeden accepted without hesitation, becoming his top lieutenants. They were the masterminds behind the Legion's military might, and, according to Warcraft 3 lore, they always had been. There was no mention of a split in their race, no talk of refugees, no hint that the Eredar were anything other than the Legion's original generals. In fact, this version of events made the Legion's history incredibly simple. Sargeras found evil masterminds, they said yes, and together they set out to burn the universe. It also made the Legion feel ancient, inevitable, and irredeemably corrupt, and we will get onto that part in a little bit. But Warcraft 3 did feature Draenei, but not the shining, crystal-powered people we'd later meet in the Burning Crusade. These Draenei were known as the Broken, a mutated offshoot living in Outland. Their most famous representative was Akama, the leader of the Draenei village of Tel'Rador, and later a key ally in Illidan's campaign. In Warcraft 3, the Broken Draenei were depicted as ancient survivors of a shattered world. Alien, stoic, and deeply spiritual, they had an almost shamanistic connection to the land, and their visual design leaned heavily into a hunched, gnarled, almost amphibian look. But honestly, Blizzard gave them little backstory beyond that. They weren't linked to the Eredar in any explicit way, and certainly not to any uncorrupted spacefaring race. To most players, they were simply just another strange, native race of Outland, much like the Orcs' ogre cousins, or the fungal Sporlings. And here's the key point. There was no indication in Warcraft 3 that these Draenei had ever been part of a larger, more advanced civilization. The connection between the Broken and the Eredar simply did not exist yet in canon. This is why the Burning Crusade's new lore hit so hard. It didn't just add history, it rewrote the Broken entirely, retroactively turning them into a tragic, corrupted form of a once great race. So fast forward to 2007, Blizzard's first expansion for World of Warcraft, the Burning Crusade. It was on the horizon, and they wanted a new alliance race that weren't pandas. But they wanted it to have a strong tie to Outland, the shattered remains of Draenor, so enter the Draenei. But here's the problem. What we've just covered, according to existing lore, the Draenei were the Lost Ones, mutated, broken survivors of Draenor's destruction. They weren't a fully intact, playable civilization. So, of course, Blizzard rewrote their history. In the new canon, the Draenei were actually uncorrupted Eredar, led by Velen, who refused Sargeras' offer and fled their homeworld of Argus. This completely reframed Archimonde and Kil'jaeden. They weren't just random villains Sargeras found, they were Velen's former brother-in-arms turned mortal enemies. And the Draenei weren't pitiful survivors anymore. They were interstellar refugees guided by the Naru on a holy mission to stop the Legion. This was also not just a cosmetic change, but it was a major shift in Warcraft's cosmology, and arguably Blizzard's first step in making the Warcraft's cosmology just a little bit too big. So first, it added moral tragedy. The Eredar weren't born evil. That's a major difference. 2/3 of their leadership sided with Sargeras, but 1/3, the Draenei, fled in exile. Secondly, it reframed the Legion's origins. The invasion of Azeroth wasn't just a random campaign of destruction, which is later fleshed out by other plot points too, but it was, in part, a hunt for the Draenei who had escaped. Thirdly, it caused immediate contradictions. Older lore described the Eredar as always serving the Legion. Now we had to accept they had only joined after Felon's escape. Fans were split. Some loved the added depth, the tragic backstory, the epic chase across the worlds, but others hated it, feeling it washed out villains like Archimonde, who were originally unapologetically evil masterminds. This retcon and monumental change also raised awkward questions. If the Eredar, Broken, and Draenei are the same race, why did they look so different? Blizzard explained it away with fell corruption and mutations, but to many players it still felt messy. So why the change? Part of it comes down to game design. Blizzard wanted a visually distinct, high fantasy race for the Alliance, something that would stand out against the Horde's Blood Elves. And the Draenei's old portrayal as warped, broken survivors wouldn't work, not for the Alliance. So the exiled Eredar concept was born. It gave them noble, heroic origins, a cool technology, and a powerful nemesis. It did also give the Burning Crusade a clear thematic core, the war between the Legion and the Draenei chosen by the Naru. From a marketing standpoint, it worked brilliantly, but from a lore standpoint, it meant throwing out a big chunk of what came before. And this wouldn't be the last time Blizzard would choose a cool new story, beating rigid consistency. And the Draenei retcon is still one of the most hotly debated changes in Warcraft history. It took one of the Legion's cornerstone races and reimagined them completely, turning pure villains into tragic heroes, and adding an entire new layer to the Burning Legion's war. So my question to you is, was it worth it? Did this change deepen the Warcraft universe, or did it erase one of the most compelling villain origins? This video was really highly requested after the top 5. I did kind of leave it out on purpose because I wanted to make this video. This one was definitely worth a deeper dive. I do have a couple of other ones lined up if you guys are interested in deeper lore in the retcon side of things. It kind of adds up to the kind of hidden things in WoW and that kind of angle that these videos kind of touch on. So if you're interested, please do let me know. But do drop all of your thoughts in the comments. I really appreciate them all. And if you want more deep dives into Warcraft, subscribe, because that's what I do. And I really appreciate all of you for sticking with me. Thank you so much. Please do have a lovely day.